The alien princess whispered in my ear, "You will be the father of my children, human." The neutral space station Aurelia floated between three star systems like a silver bridge. It was built for peace talks, not miracles. Hundreds of species gathered there, each with their own customs, colors, and quiet distrust of one another. The station lights glowed softly, reflecting off glass walls that revealed endless stars outside. Elia's ward stood near the edge of the grand hall, hands folded behind his back, trying not to look out of place. He was human. That alone made him stand out. Humans were new to the galaxy. Not weak, not strong, just unfamiliar. Many older species still called Earth a young world. Elias had heard worse. As a junior envoy, his job was simple: listen, observe, and speak only if spoken to. Tonight, the Velari Empire hosted the gathering. The Velari were ancient, tall, graceful beings with silver-blue skin and eyes that glowed softly like distant suns. Their empire controlled trade routes, research hubs, and ancient star maps no one else could read. When the Velari spoke, the galaxy listened. At the center of the hall stood Princess Sarilith. She was younger than most Velari leaders, but her presence was heavy, like gravity. Her long robes shimmered with living patterns, symbols of her royal bloodline. She spoke calmly with diplomats, her voice quiet but firm. Even hardened warlords lowered their heads when she passed. Elias had seen her only from a distance before. He never expected her to notice him. The ceremony began with soft chimes. A Velari elder spoke about unity, about the future, about survival in a changing galaxy. Elias listened carefully, though much of it sounded like the same speeches he had heard before. Then, something changed. Princess Sarilith stepped away from her advisors. She walked through the crowd, not toward powerful generals or famous leaders, but straight toward the human envoy standing alone. Murmurs spread across the hall. Why was she walking toward him? Elias felt his heart begin to race. He checked his posture, wondering if he had broken some rule without knowing it. He did not bow too low, nor did he look away. Humans had learned the hard way that respect meant different things to different species. The princess stopped in front of him. Up close, she was taller than Elias by a full head. Her glowing eyes studied him with calm intensity, as if she were reading something invisible. "Envoy Elias Ward," she said softly, his breath caught. "Yes, Your Highness." The hall went silent. Then she leaned closer. So close that only he could hear her. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You will be the father of my children, human." For a moment, Elias thought he had misheard. The universe seemed to pause. His mind raced, searching for meaning, for translation errors, for anything that made sense. But her words were clear, perfect galactic standard. No mistake. Before he could speak, she straightened and stepped back. Gasps echoed across the hall. Velari nobles froze in shock. Alien delegates stared in disbelief. Security forces tensed, unsure whether to protect the princess or remove the human. Elias stood still, his face pale. "What?" he whispered, though no one answered. The princess raised one elegant hand and the hall quieted again. "There will be questions," Sarilith said calmly. "They will be answered, not here." She turned and walked away as if nothing unusual had happened. But nothing was normal anymore. Within minutes, guards surrounded Elias, not aggressively but firmly. He was escorted out of the hall and into a quiet chamber with curved walls and soft light. His communicator buzzed nonstop. Messages from Earth, from fellow diplomats, from people asking if the galaxy had gone mad. Elias sat down slowly, trying to breathe. Why him? He was not powerful, not famous, not important. He had no royal blood, no hidden strength, no secret title. He was just a man who believed in talking before fighting. The door opened silently. Princess Sarilith entered alone. Elias stood at once. "Your Highness, I believe there has been some mistake." "There has not," she said gently. She studied him again, this time with something softer in her eyes, curiosity, maybe even relief. "You do not understand," Elias said carefully. What you said, what it means, it could place my world in danger. I know, she replied. That surprised him. The Velari do not speak lightly, she continued. Our words shape futures. That whisper was not desire, it was truth. Elias swallowed. Truth about what? Saralith turned toward the window, looking out at the stars. My people are dying, she said quietly. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. Our future paths have narrowed. We have seen every ending except one. She looked back at him. That ending involves you. Elias shook his head slowly. I don't understand why a human would matter in Velari destiny. She smiled faintly. That is because you do not see yourselves as the galaxy does. Before he could ask more, an alarm sounded faintly through the station. Not loud, controlled, but urgent. Saralith's expression hardened. Some among the council wish the future to remain unchanged, she said. They will try to stop it. The lights flickered. Security alerts flashed across the room. Elias stood without thinking, placing himself slightly in front of the princess. It was not a brave gesture, it was a human one. Stay behind me, he said quietly. She paused, clearly surprised. You would protect me, she asked. Even now. I don't know what's happening, Elias replied honestly, but I won't let anyone hurt you. A distant impact shook the station. Somewhere chaos had begun. Saralith watched him with new eyes. The prophecy, it seemed, had already taken its first step. And Elias Ward, ordinary human, quiet envil, had just become the center of a future the galaxy was not ready to face. The station trembled again, stronger this time. Warning lights flashed across the curved walls, bathing the room in soft red. A distant rumble echoed through the metal corridors of Orlia Station, followed by sharp voices over the public channel calling for calm that no one felt. Elias stood firmly in front of Princess Saralith, his body tense but his mind clear. He did not know how to fight trained soldiers or face alien weapons, but standing still felt wrong. Humans had always moved forward when fear told them to freeze. Saralith watched him carefully. You place yourself between danger and me, she said. Even though you owe me nothing. Elias kept his eyes on the sealed door. That's not how humans see it. The door slid open suddenly. Two Velari guards entered, their armor glowing faintly with defensive energy. Behind them came Counselor Threx, an elder Velari with deep lines carved into his silver skin. His eyes were sharp, cold, and fixed on Elias. Princess, Threx said, bowing slightly, the council demands your presence. Now, Saralith did not move. And the human, she asked. Threx's gaze sharpened, especially the human. Elias felt the weight of the words, not hatred, fear. Fear was always more dangerous. They were escorted through hallways filled with hurried movement. Delegates were being evacuated. Armed patrols moved with purpose. Rumors spread faster than light. A single whisper had shaken the balance of power. They entered the council chamber. It was massive, shaped like a rising circle with floating platforms for each species. The air felt heavy, thick with old authority and unspoken threats. Holographic stars rotated slowly above the center. Elias stood on a low platform alone. Princess Saralith stood opposite him, elevated slightly, calm and unmoving. Counselor Threx spoke first. By ancient law, he announced, no Velari royal may bind the future of our species without full council judgment. Your words have caused panic across allied systems. I spoke truth, Saralith replied. Truth does not excuse recklessness, another counselor said. You named a human, a species barely tested by time. Murmurs filled the chamber. Elias raised his hand slightly, unsure if he was allowed to speak. No one stopped him. I don't want power, he said clearly. I didn't ask for this. And I will not force myself into a future that harms others. The council paused. Some looked surprised, others annoyed. Saralith turned her head toward him. That is why you were chosen, she said quietly. Counselor Threx slammed his staff against the platform. The sound echoed. Chosen by what? He demanded. By fragile prophecy, by uncertain vision. By pattern, Saralith replied. By action. She raised her hand and the holographic stars shifted. Images appeared, visions recorded by Velari seers. A human medic refusing to abandon wounded allies during a retreat. A human engineer sacrificing escape to keep a station stable for strangers. A human diplomat standing unarmed between two enemies. Elias recognized none of them. They are not him, Threx argued. They are examples. Yes, Saralith said, examples of humanity, the council stirred. Princess, another voice said, calmer, older. If what you say is true, then let the human be tested. Let him prove that this choice is more than emotion. Elias felt his stomach tighten. Tested how? Ancient symbols lit up across the chamber floor. The trials of continuance, Threx said slowly. Trials none outside Velari blood have ever survived. Saralith stepped forward. They are not trials of strength, she said firmly. They are trials of choice. Elias met her eyes. If I fail, he asked. Then the future closes, she replied, and my words will be erased from record. Silence fell. Elias exhaled slowly. I'll do it, he said. Gasps echoed. You do not understand, Threx began. I understand enough, Elias interrupted, surprising himself. If my presence causes fear, then my actions should bring clarity. Saralith's eyes glowed brighter, not with power, but with hope. The first trial began sooner than expected. They led Elias to a lower section of the station, where damaged corridors had been sealed after the earlier attack. Power was unstable. Emergency lights flickered. This is not a simulation, Threx said coldly. Real danger, real consequence. The doors closed behind Elias. The room ahead was cracked open to space, protected only by weak energy fields. Inside, 3 figures were trapped, 2 Velari engineers and 1 alien child from a minor species, frightened and injured. The system announced calmly, life support failing. Elias did not hesitate. He tore off his jacket and wrapped it around the child first, lifting them gently. He guided the engineers toward a manual control panel, helping them brace a failing beam even as alarms screamed. A surge of energy flared. The field weakened. 1 engineer slipped. Elias grabbed him, straining as gravity shifted. Pain shot through his arm, but he did not let go. All 3 survived. When the doors opened, the council watched in silence. That proves nothing, Threx said, though his voice lacked certainty. The second trial came next. Elias was presented with a choice: save critical Velari data or evacuate non-essential personnel from a failing habitat ring. He chose the people. The data was lost. The council erupted. You sacrificed centuries of knowledge, one counselor shouted. Elias stood straight. Knowledge can be rebuilt, lives can't. The chamber fell quiet again. The final trial was the hardest. Elias was placed alone in a chamber with Saralith's recorded message. If you continue, her voice said, your world may suffer, your name may be cursed, you may gain nothing. The door behind him opened. Freedom. He could walk away. Elias closed his eyes. He thought of Earth, of ordinary people, of a galaxy that judged by age and power instead of heart. He stayed. When the doors finally opened, Princess Saralith was there in person. You could have left, she said softly. So could you, Elias replied. She smiled fully, openly. The council did not declare victory, but they did not stop the future either. And across the galaxy, unseen and unready, something old began to change. The council chamber felt different after the trials, not quieter but heavier. Elias stood at the center platform again, yet this time no one looked at him as a mistake. Some saw risk, some saw hope. A few saw danger, but none could deny what they had witnessed. Princess Saralith remained calm, but inside her thoughts moved quickly. The trials had not been meant to prove Elias was perfect. They were meant to show what kind of choices he made when no answer was clean. Counselor Threx rose slowly. The human has survived, he said, but survival is not destiny. No, Saralith replied, it is proof. Before the council could continue, alarms rang again, louder, sharper than before. Holographic displays flickered to life around the chamber. Multiple unknown ships had exited warp near the station. Elias frowned. "Those are Velari ships," Threx's expression darkened. "They belong to the Karth Syndicate." A low sound moved through the council. Fear, anger, memory. The Karth were an alliance of older powers who believed the galaxy must be ruled by strength alone. They hated prophecy. They feared change. And they had lost influence every time the Velari guided peace instead of war. "They know," Elias said quietly. "Yes," Saralith answered. "They always know." The council split instantly. Some demanded surrender of the human, others called for evacuation. A few argued for open defense. Voices overlapped, sharp and uncertain. Elias watched them, then stepped forward. "If they came because of me," he said, "then hiding me won't fix anything." Threx turned sharply. "You suggest we hand you over?" "No," Elias replied. "I suggest we show them who we are." The room stilled. Saralith studied him. "Explain." "They believe this future is weak," Elias said. "They believe fear controls us. Let them see a different answer." Outside the station, the Karth fleet moved closer. Their ships were dark and heavy, shaped for battle, not diplomacy. A transmission cut through all channels. "This station harbors a threat to galactic order," the Karth commander declared. "Release the human, end the false prophecy, or we will remove it." Panic spread through the station's lower levels. Civilian species gathered in shelters. Some blamed the human. Others defended him openly. Words turned sharp. Fear grew teeth. Elias walked through the corridors, escorted by Velari guards, seeing it all. A small alien child stared at him, clutching a parent's hand. Elias knelt gently. "It's going to be okay," he said. The child didn't understand his words, but understood his tone. Saralith watched from behind, something deep and unfamiliar settling in her chest. Pride, perhaps, or certainty. In the command chamber, Velari strategists projected battle paths. The Karth ships outnumbered them. Victory would come at a terrible cost. Threx spoke quietly to Saralith. "If we give them the human, they will leave." "And return later," she replied, stronger. He did not argue. Elias stepped closer to the star map. "They want control," he said, "not justice." "You have faced enemies before?" Saralith asked. "On Earth," Elias answered, "we learned that some fights aren't about winning. They're about refusing to become what the enemy expects." The Karth fleet sent a second message, this one colder: "Final warning." Silence filled the chamber. Saralith turned to Elias. "If we stand our ground, many may suffer." Elias nodded. "I know. If we fall," she continued, "history will blame you." "I know that too." She studied him carefully. "Why do you remain?" Elias looked at the stars. "Because someone has to show them that the future doesn't belong to the strongest hand," he said. "It belongs to the steady one." The Velari defense fleet moved into position. Then something unexpected happened. A small human ship jumped out of warp alone. Then another. Then three more, Earth vessels, civilian class, not warships. A transmission opened. "This is Captain Rhea Morales of the Earth Union," a voice said calmly. "We heard there was a misunderstanding." The Karth commander hesitated. More ships appeared, cargo haulers, medical vessels, exploration craft. Humans from across nearby systems arrived without orders, without weapons primed. Saralith stared at the display. They came without being asked. Elias felt his throat tighten. "That sounds like us." The human message continued. "We are not here to fight, we are here to stand." The Karth commander laughed. "You bring unarmed ships against a fleet," Captain Morales replied. "No, we bring witnesses." Across the network, transmissions lit up. Species who had benefited from human aid spoke up. Worlds saved by human engineers. Colonies defended by human volunteers. Trade routes kept open by human mediators. The Karth fleet hesitated. This was not resistance, they understood. Saralith turned to the council. "This is the future I spoke of." Threx said nothing. The Karth commander sent one last message. This is not over. Their fleet withdrew slowly, unwillingly, but gone. Relief washed over the station. Cheers echoed. Some cried. Some simply sat in silence, shaken by how close everything had come to ending. Elias leaned against the railing, exhausted. Sarilith approached him. You changed nothing with force, she said softly, and everything with presence. I didn't do it alone, Elias replied. She nodded. You never do. The council reconvened later. This time Threx stood first. The galaxy has seen something today, he said. Not strength, not dominance, resolve. He turned to Elias. You carry risk, Threx admitted, but you also carry balance. The council voted. Not full acceptance, but recognition. The future remained open. As Elias looked out into space once more, he realized something important. He was no longer just a human among stars. He was a choice the galaxy would now have to live with. And somewhere deep in the Velari future, something new waited to be born, not of fear but of trust. The galaxy did not return to normal after the Karth fleet withdrew. It shifted. News traveled fast across star systems. Not through official channels alone, but through personal messages, recordings, and shared memories. The story was told again and again. A human stood in the center of fear and did not demand power, did not threaten, did not kneel. He simply stayed. On Orlia Station, comms slowly returned. Emergency lights dimmed. Damaged corridors were sealed and repaired. Delegates who had once whispered in suspicion now watched Elia's ward with open curiosity, some with respect, some with caution. Princess Sarilith stood on a high balcony overlooking the station's inner ring. The stars beyond glimmered like quiet witnesses. For the first time in many cycles, she felt the future breathe instead of closing in. Elias approached, careful not to disturb her thoughts. You wanted to see me, he asked. Yes, she said, and so did the council, he sighed softly. That sounds serious. It is, Sarilith replied, but not dangerous. They walked together toward the council chamber, their steps slow and unhurried. The station felt different now. Less cold, less distant. Inside the chamber, the council waited. Councillor Threx stood once more, but his posture had changed. He looked older than before, not from weakness, but from acceptance. The galaxy has watched our response, Threx said. And more importantly, it has watched yours. He turned slightly, addressing the entire chamber. Human Elia's ward has been offered power and refused it, offered safety and rejected it, offered escape and remained. The council lights dimmed, focusing attention on the center. Princess Sarilith's words were once seen as dangerous, Threx continued. Now they are seen as necessary. A symbol appeared in the air, a Velari mark rarely shown. The council recognizes the continuance path, Threx said. The future remains open, guided, not forced. Murmurs spread. This was not full approval, but it was more than anyone expected. Elias spoke quietly. What does that mean for me? Sarilith answered before the council could. It means you are no longer a secret, she said, and no longer alone. After the session, Elias stood before a secure transmission channel to Earth. Leaders, scientists, and ordinary citizens watched from screens across his homeworld. He did not speak like a hero. He spoke like a human. I didn't come here to represent greatness, Elias said. I came to listen. And what I learned is this: the galaxy doesn't need us to be perfect. It needs us to be present. Across Earth, people nodded. Some cried. Some smiled. Humanity did not cheer loudly. They never did when it mattered most. They simply accepted the weight placed on them. Days later, representatives from other species arrived, not to challenge but to ask questions. How did humans build trust so easily? Why did they come without being called? Why did they protect strangers? Elias answered honestly. We don't always get it right, he said, but we try again. Princess Sarilith observed him during these meetings. She saw no hunger for influence in him, no desire to rule, only a steady willingness to carry responsibility without claiming ownership. One evening she invited him to a quiet chamber filled with Velari star records. Ancient lights drifted around them, forming soft images of possible futures. Our people believed survival came from purity, she said, from control. And now? Elias asked. Now, she replied, we see survival comes from connection. She paused, then added gently, my words that day shook the galaxy, but they were never meant to claim you. Elias met her gaze. Then what were they meant to do? To announce choice, she said, not possession. Partnership, he exhaled, relief clear on his face. That, he said, I can stand behind. Time passed, not measured in days but in decisions. Human ambassadors worked alongside Velari mediators, trade routes stabilized, minor conflicts softened. The Karth Syndicate watched from a distance, uncertain and uneasy. They had prepared for resistance, not example. On a quiet rotation cycle, a small Velari child visited the observation deck where Elias stood alone. Are you the human? The child asked. Yes, Elias said, smiling. My mother says you didn't run, the child said seriously. Elias knelt. I stayed. The child nodded as if that explained everything. Princess Sarilith watched from afar, her hand resting lightly over her chest. The future had not arrived with fire or crowns. It arrived with trust. At the final assembly before Elias returned to Earth, the council gathered once more. This time, Threx bowed fully. Human Elias Ward, he said, history will remember this moment. Not for dominance, but for direction. Sarilith stepped forward. The future I spoke of is not born yet, she said. But when it is, it will carry two truths, Velari wisdom and human heart. Elias did not answer with words. He simply placed a hand over his chest, a human gesture now understood by many. As his ship departed Oralia Station, he looked back one last time. The stars no longer felt distant. They felt reachable. The galaxy had not chosen humanity to rule. It had chosen humanity to remind it how to move forward. And somewhere in the vast dark, the future listened and answered back.